Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast. I'm your host, Clinton Bonner. And as you can see, if you're watching this on YouTube, and you should be, I am joined today by our very special guest, Coach DC, Coach Derek, all 22 films. Coach, we are excited because we are going to dive in to the mystery that is Coach Fleury, because we have Hard Knocks. He's never on Hard Knocks. We got a couple of preseason games to now look at, and we're going to look at some of the clues. We're going to look a little deeper, and we're going to investigate what is really in store for the Seahawks offense and how much different might it be than last year's Super Bowl championship offensive team. Coach, how are you doing?
Doing great, man. It's just like you guys, I'm sure, just like super busy, but joyfully busy. I
Yes.
feel happy to have so much work that I want to do
Oh, that's
that
good.
I can't get to it. To be honest with you, this is the second week in a row for me where trying to dive into the Seahawks, I can't produce content until I feel like I understand the plays to a certain depth or
Mhm.
degree. And so I could probably get Seahawks content out sooner, but I don't think it would be to the quality that I wish to produce, if that makes sense.
It does.
So
Well, yeah, it
it's
does.
been a fun 2 weeks with the film out. And it's been like a lot of late nights and early mornings. So it's what I asked for. So I'm very happy to be here with you
I love it.
again. And I know you guys are excited about the season, despite uh, really awful. Bud Clark and
Ugh.
Jake Bobo for me, man. Looking up and seeing that was not cool at all. But you guys got so much talent and depth there that I'm looking forward to see how they adjust.
Yeah, and that's the right word too. It's not just it is because especially the Bobo part, because we're looking at Fleury today, and we'll bring this up on screen so folks can see it there. But the Bobo injury, how might that impact not just the pass game, but what Fleury wants to do in the run game? I'm sure we'll get into that as well, because he's pretty damn valuable in the run game as well, the type of dude he is. But we're gonna discuss that. We're gonna talk quarterbacks, we're gonna talk some injury, we're gonna talk, hey, is there just too many mouths to feed in terms of pass catching dudes out there, including running backs, knowing that the Shanahan system likes to feed running backs that way? We're going to hit all those things. We're actually going to talk a little UConn later. Little teaser for those. Most people won't care, but heck, it's my show tonight and I care deeply. So we're going to talk about that. But as it relates to our quarterback, Jalen Milroe, we'll get into all that with you. And we want to remind folks out there to please like and subscribe, drop a comment. If you have another question for Coach Derek, drop it in the comments when this is after being done live. I'll make sure we share it back with him on Twitter. And he's a great person out there to engage with. And of course, just a reminder that the LA Rams are not Super Bowl champions yet. As much as the NFL wants to crown them, we are still the Super Bowl champions until they take it away. And I don't think they're going to. One thing I want everybody to take away, though, is that you got to follow Coach Derek out on Twitter and go subscribe on YouTube. Look, he's approaching 50,000 subs out on YouTube. If 50 million Elvis fans can't be wrong, well, then 50,000 subs can't be wrong. Go hit him up on YouTube. That's just search all 22 NFL. You'll see it. And find him out on Twitter, because it's always these gems he's dropping out there, and we love having him on. So, Coach, that's probably, I know our audience loves you, so I know most of our audience is going to know you already, but I also know there's brand new people seeing you for the first time, so I want to give you the love. Let's dive right in. Kubiak gone, Fleury's here. We're not breaking any new ground there, but now we got two preseason games under our belts, albeit still preseason. What are you seeing as the biggest maybe similarities from last year? And then what are the biggest deltas that you're noticing so far in what Fleury has unveiled?
Yeah, there's a lot more running back motion just before the snap,
Hmm.
and I, you know, not to get into the Drew Lock Jalen Milroe thing immediately, but I did notice it more in the first half this week than I did in the second. I charted the whole first possession for Milroe in the third quarter
Mm-hmm.
and didn't notice one iteration of shotgun and the running back motioning out just before the snap. And I felt like in the first half of this game in particular, that kind of cleared up some of the reads for Drew Lock underneath. I'm being a little bit generic or general here in stating that. But now, having said that, the two interceptions by Jalen Milroe, I think, are really poor, in my
Yes.
opinion. Um, so a lot to like. There's a ton of run concepts, and I think that there's probably some variations off of what Kubiak did. I think there's going to be like a Venn diagram. I think there's going to be a large amount of intersection between the run concepts, in my opinion. A pattern emerging that is not unique to Fleury or Shanahan is run action to the boundary with the quarterback booting to the field. I mean, that's the way
Hmm.
you do it, especially when you're getting 11 personnel. I'm just giving you general
Yep.
observations so far that I think either carry over from last year and look similar, or things that are new. The whole running back motioning out thing. I'm not saying that Kubiak and Seattle didn't ever use it last year, but it's definitely something that exists in San Francisco, whether it's McCaffrey in the backfield or not. Motion just before the snap by the running back, oftentimes moving out to the side where there's already two receivers. So you're almost kind of forcing the second level defenders to widen up a little bit
Hmm.
and open up a lane to throw into somewhere, so that's something that's, I think, is a little bit new.
So,
Um,
yeah, I'd love to
the
start.
amount of times
Yeah,
to see it.
I'd love to start there too. And so great observation first and taking that a click deeper. But you're mentioning, hey, at least what you saw from the snaps, that they were doing it more under Drew than they were under Milroe. Now, is that a consequence? Is Milroe in shotgun more? There was plenty of shotgun Drew. We're going to talk about the run game out of shotgun, I think, in a little bit. But is it more, hey, do you think the coaches think Drew's just more capable of running that, and or Milroe is in
Yeah.
shotgun more and it's less friendly for that type of motion, or is it something just else you think they're trying?
I'm not sure. I mean, when I watched the first half, I noticed how often that motion was a part of the play. And it's very smooth, and oftentimes it's to the field, which makes sense, right? You motion them into the boundary, even in the NFL where the hashes are tight.
Yep.
There's just not as much room. Um, but when I started to watch the third quarter film, there did come a point in time where I was like, all right, this looks different, to
Hmm.
some degree. Um, I did feel like Milroe, for whatever reason, was less, take the 4 or 5 yard gain that's there, whether it's play action boot and throw it out to the tight end / fullback in the flats, or the first interception, um,
Hmm.
I think is an absolute setup for him to just throw it to the running back to the field, let the running back run onto the space. When I say field, I mean the wide side of the field. I know that but I'm saying this for
Yep.
your listeners and
It's
or
great.
watchers.
Thank you.
Um, it's a very unusual setup. The first interception. I think it's a 7 or 8 play drive, and I believe it's a 1st and 10. My apologies for that. It was not the 7 or 8 play drive. That first possession of the third quarter was a punt, but it is a 1st and 10, and it's
Mhm.
bunch into the boundary. And normally, when you get bunch into the boundary at the NFL level, one of those 3 receivers into the boundary, the short side of the field, is going to motion to the wide side.
Mhm.
And it to me, this is my impression. It seemed to me like Fleury was saying, hey, we know what coverage we're going to get to the field. We're going to run the running back into the flats, a little curl by the number 1 to the field, throw the ball to the running back in the flats, let him run onto the space. We get 5-6 yards, fine.
Yeah, great.
That's what I
Great on first
see.
down. That's hey, we'll take that on first down every single time. Yeah.
That's what I see, and I think it's there. Don't get me wrong. The corner is sitting at 8-9 yards depth, and he's going to react. The inside linebacker, he's going to react. So you're not going to hit a home run. But I just feel like Jalen Milroe made things more difficult on himself by not taking access to what might have been there immediately. And of course, look, former. We have so many people out there analyzing the game that former NFL quarterbacks will tell you, okay, this is what this is.
Mhm.
And they're not wrong. Clearly, they're not wrong, right? They know a whole lot more than me and you do. But we do not know what was said to the quarterback in the helmet pre-snap. My
Sure.
suspicion here on this first interception is, hey, Jay, or whatever he calls him, we want to take the access to the running back right now. Unless the corner squats or the inside linebacker flows right now, we want to take it. And, I could be wrong. I could obviously be wrong there. So, in terms of the difference between those two guys, which is not necessarily what you asked me, Locke made a horrible decision on an interception in the first half,
He
too,
got bailed out on
and
that
got
one.
bailed out.
Yes, he
I
did.
don't, I watched that play 3 or 4 times, and I'm like, did he see, what he thought or perceived was a penalty? Like
Right.
Josh Allen stuff.
Yep.
Josh Allen, okay, I think I see a penalty over here, therefore I'm going to throw it, right? And let it happen what happens. I didn't see that at all. To me, that was an awful decision by Locke. That was decision making versus Milroe. That was more like execution
Mhm.
and then ball location, which was pretty inconsistent throughout the game. From a Flory standpoint, I do think you have a merging of this Shanahan stuff and the quote Kubiak, which is all related. And so I'm very interested in some of the variations that we get. Some of my notes, ton of run concepts, like I said.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
I'm really interested in in addition the pass pro element, how much is put on the quarterback versus how much is put on the offensive line. I suspect that you guys know that after one of the 49ers Super Bowl losses, there was a discussion about Spagnuolo attacking certain pass pro and the 49ers being unwilling or in the Shanahan structure not changing
Hmm.
that pass pro, like, quote, ever. And Spagnola, knowing that, forcing certain looks and then taking advantage of it, basically knowing, okay, they're going to throw the hot, they're not going to change the protection. And so that part of it for me, I'm not pretending to know as much as ex NFL quarterbacks, but I am interested in that aspect of it, because I didn't think Kubiak had that problem. To me, Kubiak almost always had all the right answers, whether it was play call, whether it was formation, whether it was pass pro. I mean, the system was beautiful. That's why I'm glad, correct me if I'm wrong, they kept the O-line coach, right?
Yes, Benton. Yep, correct. Yeah, they kept Benton there. So were you seeing anything that alludes to that Fleury might be adopting the Shanahan style of locking in on something that might give you some concern? I mean, you said what you said. So I'm like, oh, does that mean you're seeing a trait or two that might be peeking at its ugly head? Or no, that's not evident so far.
No, no, not to me. But I am seeing formations and the ensuing plays in action that looks the same. I mean,
Mhm.
one that I talked about a ton on my channel last year was 12 personnel, two tight ends, one running back, and then what I call ace. So tight end receiver to the right, tight end receiver to the left, and those guys, it's a mirrored look to the
Mhm.
right and to the left. So they have the same spacing, they have the same width. I know that you know this, but I'm more so talking for your observers or listeners. And Kubiak used that brilliantly in 2025. I mean, it was someone like, I think it's Dan Casey or people who write books about offensive play callers like me in the offseason. I wanted to write one about just Kubiak's usage of 12 personnel ace formation because there was so much there with the way he attacked it. And so for me, when obviously he left and he goes to the Raiders, I was kind of like, okay, are they going to keep the ace look? Because it's
Hmm.
just fun for me. A lot of people use it at the NFL level, don't get me wrong. But in my opinion, because of the unique personnel that the Seahawks have/had, and the way Kubiak called the plays, I felt like it was dialing up or increasing the volume on the effectiveness, if you will,
Mhm.
and especially the play action. I mean, so many of the touchdowns generated last year were generated from that formation, whether they were to receivers or tight ends. I love a balanced formation that's 2 by 2 that looks the same to the right and the left. Personally, I love it. And so I was glad to see that Fleury is keeping that one because, we saw it show up a lot, especially in this last game against Tennessee.
I love that. Love that insight because, and thank you for taking the time to explain it too. Because as much as I do know, I could use all the visualizations you're given with the audio commentary there. So that's super helpful for me. But really cool to understand that hey, there was a concept that was really working well last year. And yes, we're going to see a hybrid. But in your opinion, what you're seeing on tape is they're retaining some of the stuff that clearly did work, and it'll evolve. It will always evolve, but the concept of it with that ace formation is retained, which is super interesting to me. It's a very good point. Uh, so we saw Drew, I think, under center quite a bit, but then really I've seen something I wanted to ask you about was you mentioned the run concepts earlier, the variance off of the run concepts. I was like, oh man, we're running out of shotgun, I think, more than we
Mhm.
did last year. So am I right? Does it seem like the volume of that is higher? And then is what's happening with the run concepts out of shotgun that either have you excited or you're just, you're not sure quite there yet for the Seahawks?
Well, in this day and age, you see so much shotgun at all levels of football. My apologies. I'm looking off screen because I was trying to find that tweet that you and I
It's all
talked
good.
about. in the pre-show, but for whatever reason, I'm having difficulty sharing it. But to your point, we see so much shotgun. The dynamic is so interesting to me. The training of players at a younger level is, in many cases, reliant on being able to see the football, see the quarterback. Now, there are some times, admittedly, where if you look at the end zone angle of film, people, non-football people, will say, well, he's looking at the quarterback. Now he's looking at the guard. He's getting his read from the guard, or he's getting his read from the tackle to the running back side. The calls are so different and so variable that I feel like we're all remiss if we say he's reading this with 100% certainty. Okay. Now I'm getting to the whole point, your question about the shotgun stuff.
Sure.
My apologies.
All good.
Being able to use both, I think, is important. It really helps to have an athletic quarterback. And so, of course, now Sam Darnold showed off his athleticism in the Super Bowl. 3 or 4 plays, at least 2 in the first half, I thought were potentially disastrous from a pass pro standpoint. And then Darnold escapes and, turns them into first downs or at least not a negative play. But it's super helpful to have an athletic quarterback where you can stick the ball in the quarterback's gut, read the zone concept or whatever it is, and then have the quarterback keep it around the edge. They're not going to do that with Darnold a whole lot. That's not what this run game is going to look like. But it does look like it in the preseason when you just watch if you were scouting them and watching the run game from the shotgun, you'd say, well, it does look like the quarterback's reading it to me. So that's interesting. How often would they do that with Darnold? At most once every 2 or 3 weeks, probably in a critical situation. I think that there's so many other options and so much talent on this team. I'm interested in the 11 personnel run game because this is a theory of mine, and I don't ask you or listeners, viewers to accept it completely. But I think 11 personnel shotgun run effectiveness is extremely reduced if you don't have an athletic quarterback. If you're not, and I'm talking about all levels of football. So the NFL, some would say maybe is a little bit different. You're not using some of your receivers as blockers. When I say 11 personnel, I mean 1 running back, 1 tight end. And so if you're not able to or willing to threaten the field horizontally with your quarterback, keeping it essentially, then you've limited the amount of space horizontally that the defense has to defend against the run. So to answer your question, I do think the shotgun run game looks good. I'm wondering if it's going to be out of 11 personnel or 12 because 12 is different. Number one. Number two, you just lost Jake Bobo, who's an exceptional blocker in the run game. So 11 personnel can functionally be 12. And I'm not calling Jake Bobo a tight end in disguise. Like, if you guys don't know, I think you do, but if you guys don't know, like, I've done videos on Jake Bobo in the preseason last year. I remember that touchdown catch. I think it was the Chiefs. Is that right?
I don't remember it per se, but I remember him catching a touchdown. Forget who against.
So, big fan, and that's a loss.
Yes.
I think that impacts the 11 personnel run game. So to answer your question, I like what we're seeing. It looks like the quarterbacks are reading it. Sam Darnold certainly would be capable of reading it, reading the edge defender, reading the inside linebacker. It makes me wonder if there's not going to be some more RPO usage. And I don't know if people have talked about that yet. Basically, instead of reading the defensive end, you're reading the inside linebacker or second level defender and deciding whether to hand the ball off or throw it out there in the flats. Think like Jaden Daniels, Washington Commanders, his rookie year type stuff, where you've got the run action over here. Conceptually is really just play action boot is all it is. You're just asking the quarterback to read it. So I don't necessarily see the offense going there, but when you see or observe the quarterback reading, apparently reading, zone read stuff, then your brain starts to say, okay, how are they going to do this out of 11 personnel? Again, I don't expect you or others to accept my assertion that 11 personnel run game out of the shotgun is very limited if your quarterback isn't athletic or you're not willing to have him keep the football around the edge. Forgive the long-winded answer, but that's where I am with that. And again, it's perhaps my own limitation because I have never seen 11 personnel run game work without a quarterback who can add on to it, if that makes sense.
Makes all the sense in the world. Understood. And there's a couple of pieces there that I want to delve into a little bit more. I like the idea of Seattle adding that to the repertoire, mainly for the you said, hey, it's not, you don't think it'd be something they go to all the time. However, having it in the quiver and pulling the strings at the right time, to me, when I think about those RPOs and I think about, just using the flats with more consistency, I look at those, I kind of deem those like free yards in the NFL. When you are doing it well and you're in rhythm, and if you have a defense that doesn't really think of you that way, speaking in very generic terms, but then you're keeping them honest in the preseason. But if coaches will watch this going, hey, we got to be ready for this. They might do this. To me, it sets up other opportunities to, yes, do it a couple times, but then also probably spring some things off of it in a variant that might be a more explosive play
Yeah.
based on a look as well. So all that's exciting. And I will say, I'm glad you bring up Sam's athleticism, because I don't think he gets, I'm not
It's
sitting here like,
underrated.
oh, yeah, he's an underrated athlete. It's not like, oh, he's going to go rush for 600 yards. No, he's not going to go rush for 600 yards. However, there was multiple times down the stretch where he's responsible for moving the chains on third down. It was a little bit like Mahomes got very, very, very good. It's like, you don't think of Mahomes as a scrambler. However, if it's 3rd and 6, you see Mahomes scooting around the edge, he's getting 6.5 yards. Like, book it, especially when he was super healthy. We'll see if he can continue that after
Right.
some injury. But you see him escaping. It's like, well, just move the chains. It's done already. He's getting this first down. And down the stretch and into the Super Bowl, Sam kind of got to that level of, okay, if he's taking off, he sees it, he's gone, and he is a good enough athlete to really, move those chains. So exciting stuff, because that could be a wrinkle. You did mention Bobo. I wanted to chat with you about, we lose Ouzts, and Ouzts is a 275-pound fullback that has explosives that are off the charts. We still have Brady Russell, but he is not, from a size perspective, giving up about 25 pounds, and an explosion perspective, he's different than Robbie Ouzts. And we lose Bobo. And you mentioned, thank you for saying it, hey, in 11 personnel, you're kind of could be in a de facto 12 when you have blockers like Bobo out there. So we have a lot of mouths to feed. We just lost 2 guys that would play a big role in the run game. Well, how do you
How
think
long's
this
Ouzts out
impacts?
for? How long's the fullback out for?
He's out for the year. He's got a neck. So his neck injury that kept him out the end of last season popped up. They put him on IR. He's gone.
I didn't
So
know that. I knew about
yeah,
Bobo, but I didn't know that.
yeah. So Ouzts is gone too. So just makeup wise, how does that hit you? You're hearing the Ouzts stuff, in real time.
Both of those are losses. I mean, individually, collectively, or combined, I think that's a pretty big factor, to be honest with you. And I can reflect on the Ravens' uses of Pat Ricard.
Mhm.
And he was used it's not just in the run game, but it could be pass pro stuff as well. So the subtraction of Ouzts is possibly trickle down effect on the tight ends. How much more are those guys going to be asked to do 2 things, I guess? Move back in the backfield. I don't know what they think of Brady Russell would be the presumed starter now, right?
Correct.
38.
That at fullback, yes.
Yeah. So how often would they rather take a tight end and move them back in the backfield? That's what's happened in the NFL in
Yep.
recent years. That's why so many teams don't have fullbacks. They really do have a fullback. They're just asking the tight end to do it, right? But who would that be, right?
Well,
Barner would be capable, but I don't think it would be him.
yeah, you probably wouldn't do it with Barner. You're not going to do that with Arroyo, right? But
Yep.
most likely as you move tight end. They have 2 options. It could be Salbert, but Salbert's not the athlete that either Ouzts or Russell are in
Right.
terms of nimbleness. But there's the 4th guy, which is Nick Callerup, who he looks like he could be that, hey, if we need a fullback to go in, he's got a little higher level of athleticism. Whereas Salbert is one of my favorite players in the entire team, coach, but he is your traditional blocking tight end who, when he's in line, he knows how to position his body. He's great with his hands. I'm not so sure he's the same if he's got to go to a moving target.
Is Vanette still around?
Vanette's the 5 right now. So yes, so they got Vanette back on the team. I
Amazing
don't,
story.
yeah, I know, right? It's the circle back. I wonder, I don't know. I don't think Vanette makes the 53,
Right.
but with the way that vets get treated with this practice squad now, he likely could get there or get gobbled up if a team needs a blocking tight end.
Yeah, really cool. There's so much tight end talent across the NFL and the college football universe. I mean, uh, I feel like tight end position, what's happened in let's do it this way, the last 3 or 4 years to tight
Mhm.
ends is what happened with wide receiver talent 10, 12 years ago. And what I mean is, more specific training at the position. And I feel like that occurred conceptually for wide receivers further back in the past than it did for tight ends.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that I explained that really well, but there's a lot of really good tight ends, and Seattle has at least 3 of them. I just finished a video on Arroyo putting out. I didn't include the ball that I think is down the left sideline from Milroe. That, I mean, possibly that ball is, a foot, 2 feet. I don't want to even say the word underthrown, but it could be slightly further out there. But the
Yeah.
linebacker makes a great play on it, 33. So yeah, I mean, those two are impacted. Those two's losses, the lack of availability for Bobo and Ouzts. I thought bringing back Bobo was a big deal.
I liked it.
Last year.
I love. I mean, he was signed to Jacksonville, right? So they went and out and matched. So Jacksonville wanted him. And your point being too about the wide receiver and then bleeding into the tight ends becoming more specialists. And then Bobo, who literally can kind of canvas both worlds when he needs to. You want to put him in line and be a de facto tight end. He gets the job done, but he also could go over the middle. He could high point the ball. A very short-handed receiver, and he was clutch, right? So, and he was a very good blocker in the run game. So, I'm with you for sure. Yeah, I agree.
Both those guys.
It's going to be interesting to see how Fleury, evolves or turns it over. But you mentioned that we really do have I don't think the NFL regular NFL fan would think about the Seattle tight end room as special. They'd be like, oh, Barner's nice and emerging, and he, wears a mink coat where they're celebrating, and he's all that stuff, a bit of a showman, all cool. Even if they even know who AJ Barner is. Arroyo, they probably get excited about because he's the move guy who played with Cam Ward and scored a bajillion touchdowns with wide open hashes. Now he's emerging, and he looks to be a darn good move who can stick his nose in there and do a job blocking. But then they have Salbert and we have Callerup. So you got Fleury, which is the topic for today. He's a tight ends coach coming from a system that really likes to use tight ends significantly. What do you think if you had to look at okay, you got those 3 dudes. Well, Salbert's not going to catch too many passes regardless.
Right.
What could you project or think about for Barner and Arroyo's usage, given the fact that it's also within a room with a lot of pass catchers that got to get balls, and a team that still likes to run the football? So how does it all suss in your opinion?
Yeah, it's funny that you asked that because I literally just talked about that
Hmm.
point at the end of the Arroyo video I recorded like maybe 45 minutes before you and I met. And my
Cool.
point was twofold, but it really lines up with what you said, I believe. I think in another city, another NFL team, that AJ Barner could be a 70, 75 catch a season guy.
Yeah.
6'8", maybe as much as 10 touchdowns, depending on, essentially, if he had been in Arizona last year and been exposed to as many opportunities as their tight end, I think it's McBride. God,
yeah. Yep.
I don't know that he's going to catch 112 balls or whatever the heck McBride did. I don't even know what the number was. I don't know that it was above 100, but it was a lot.
It was a lot. Yeah, for sure.
Very similar to 2021 Mark Andrews in Baltimore. Lamar goes out like week 8, week 9, something like that. And Andrews ends up with like 94 catches because we lost both of our running backs, Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. Lamar goes out some point in time, and Mark Andrews is like the only guy, left.
Mm-hmm.
So he ended up with 90 catches. So what I'm saying is I could say here that, in my opinion, 6 other teams in the NFL, I'm not going to name them, maybe even upwards of 8, Barner could be a 70 catch, 75 catch guy. Yeah. However, in Seattle, of course, JSN, Shaheed, Horton, I don't know what his deal is, about it's a long season, 17 games. A lot of guys are going to be injured. So, I don't know what the specific usage of Horton will be. And then along with that, they want to be committed to the run game. So Arroyo being a emerging player potentially could cut even more into Barner's targets. I think AJ Barner is a way better football player, way better pass catching tight end than the rest of NFL fan bases would be aware of.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons why I wholesale reject one game rating structures completely, because Barner is a guy to me who has impact when he gets the opportunity. Why doesn't he get more opportunities? Well, you got JSN, right? You got, last year, Kenneth Walker. So to your point, I think it's a real dynamic that if Arroyo emerges, you could see Barner's season-long production, his stats essentially stay the same, even though he's maybe he's a better player than he was 2-3 years ago, what have you. I think the world of their tight end group. I really do. Saulbert. I think maybe I've
So,
been
yeah,
mispronouncing
Salbert, but
Salbert.
you got it.
I
Yep.
think I'm mispronouncing it. Is a good player.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. And the 2-point conversion catch, like you'll never forget that. Obviously, to the moment of the decision there. I think it's a design play. I think that other people are a part of the read and a potential receiver
Mhm.
of the football there, but
Sure.
I don't think it was accidental of him catching that football. I think it's totally designed. But in any case, I think it's a better tight end group than everybody would give them credit, than many people would give them credit. First of
Yeah.
all. Second of all, to me, consistency of usage looks the same. I see it here. I observe it basically in this system. I think you're still going to have the same type of plays drawn up for these guys, the same expectation level. Maybe you see more 12 personnel usage, but I think that depends on Arroyo being consistent as a blocker.
Hmm.
He can do it. The touchdown, the touchdown by Jacardier Wright the other night is so crazy. Like the first time I watched it from the all 22, I'm like, did Arroyo get 2 blocks there? And then when I see the end zone angle, I'm like, oh, he thinks he missed the block on the linebacker. So he's turning around and then the receiver runs him into the safety. He literally gets sandwiched between the receiver and the safety. So, I think he can be a better blocker. I think he
Mhm.
has to be. If you want to use 12 personnel a whole lot, like Barner and Arroyo on the field at the same time with JSN over here and Shaheed or Horton over there to the right, I think that's a great group. It relies upon him being able to block consistently. So, the question is, can he do that?
Yeah, I love the. I have my questions and some doubts there still with him in that position, but I think we're going to get a chance to see it. Certainly, give the young man in his second year an opportunity there for sure. And overall, we ran the ball at one of the higher percentages last year, and we know Mike Macdonald's going to want to run the ball. Like after year one with Ryan Grubb, where it was, I don't even want to talk about it, but it's all shotgun all the time, complete predictability, like where to the point where linebackers were not even dropping on play action because there were so many tells out there. And then turning that over to Kubiak, where everything's multiple, everything looks like a 98-mile-per-hour fastball. However, it's a changeup, and
Yeah.
you're lunging and you're on the bench 2 seconds later because you got fooled. To take a baseball metaphor or analogy. So, do you think, given what you're seeing so far, given the JSN just gets paid, I know is that a big deal? I mean, he just got paid, right? I mean, he just got paid huge dollars. They draft a running back in the first round that, again, might be catching some more balls with Jadarian Price. If you had do you think we'll be pretty much steady Eddie in terms of percentage of run versus pass, or do you think the dials will change more towards run or more passing in the Fleury offense, just based on what you're seeing so far or what you know of Fleury?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I think that to some degree, it depends on what the defense offers, what's out there. And we have to keep in mind, I'm not evading the question, but we have to keep in mind that it's a 17-game season. And, let's just say your matchup in week 10 or week 11 or week 12, whatever, might be a team that you face that is down 2 D tackles. So, of
Mhm.
course, you're going to run the ball more, right? Or
True.
the opposite side of that coin. The team is missing a nickel DB and a safety. So you may target the tight ends more. I think of basically last year, the Ravens go to Green Bay without Lamar Jackson, and we had an awful season in 2025. We deserved every bit of it, however. um, and the Packers are down 2 D tackles. Micah Parsons been out for a while with the ACL injury,
Mhm.
and Derrick Henry could have ran for 400 yards that night if they gave him the football more. So, to some degree, I think it depends on what you're seeing in that specific week. And the Shanahan structure, Kubiak structure, McVay, they're all similar. I think Ben Johnson's right in there with them. They all are very multiple as far as presenting this particular look formation, and then the quarterback being able to decide which play to run. And Darnold is he's a brilliant mind as far as football goes. Twice in the off season, I was able to listen to him talk football, and one of which was from like 4 or 5 years ago. I was like, man, it's just fun to listen to
Hmm.
some of these guys talk when they get the chance to do so. You know, I think I would like to see them be committed to the under center personally. I would like to
Yes.
see them committed to the under center because you can change the defense's reaction time, basically uh, also lengthen or elongate how much time they're put in conflict by going under center. Perfect example. It's not Seahawks related. The Ravens offense this past week against Brian Flores, they got annihilated in the first three possessions. Three and outs. Flores with backups on the field, or some of which are very talented guys. They took us apart. On the fourth possession, our offensive coordinator goes under center for every play but one, some of which are pass plays, right? Play action. And we get 68 yards, 67 yards out of it, something like that. And we're able to generate a field goal. I remember watching it live thinking, well, how? Why? How did that occur? It goes back to your question from earlier about the shotgun run game. Some of these safeties, nickel DBs, Seattle does it too on defense. They are in particular calls reliant upon being able to see the football. Was it handed off or not? And when the quarterback's back is turned and under center comparatively, you have to be looking longer because the quarterback's back is turned. It's a simple concept. The old football guys from 100 years ago, they did know some stuff, right?
Yeah.
To your point or to your question about it, overall, I think there'll be a lot of similarities because these structures have a lot of similarity, in my opinion. And the one thing to add, not to bring up a nightmare scenario, but let's say you had to go 2 or 3 games without Sam Darnold. The under center game can safeguard things with a backup quarterback, in my opinion, better than a shotgun reliant offense does. It's a very generic statement, and some people won't agree with it. No problem with that. But you're hopefully training a guy in Drew Lock or Jalen Milroe, whatever your preference is, to be able to execute as many things as possible if they had to get into a football game and win it in the regular season. And I just think at this point in time, some of those offenses, Shanahan, McVay, Ben Johnson, they're a little bit more, maybe the word is QB friendly in one way or another. Forgive me for taking your question someplace you didn't necessarily maybe want it to go.
No, it's all good. It's perfect. You answered it, and there's more tributaries from it too, because you mentioned Locke. We're talking quarterbacks. I want to talk about a couple of quarterbacks. But Locke was under center to start the game, and the nice part about Locke is we know what we have with him. So if he has to come in and run this offense, we've seen it. We know he can produce. Now we also know at some point in the game there's gonna be a YOLO ball or two that you're like, dude, what? Why did you throw that? Boy, why? Just eat it or just dirt it, whatever. Take a check down, and he's gonna YOLO the ball once or twice a game because that's Drew Lock. So you live with that but I love the concept of if we do have to go a spell without Sam, do we trust? To me, it comes down to trust. Do you trust the quarterback to get under center and operate basically the same? For all intents and purposes. Obviously, different levels of decision making are going to be there, and some variances in arm strength and all that stuff. But Locke's got a hose. So I think as Seahawks fans, we're quite happy with Drew Lock as a backup. And we don't want to see him on the field, but are like, hey, if he's got to go in and win a game or two because Sam tweaks an ankle, we're pretty confident he could do it. Now, the QB3, there's a lot of consternation in the Pacific Northwest right now about Jalen Milroe. So I want to actually, I'm a UConn guy. So the quarterback from UConn, who was a UDFA, Spagnuolo, he gets picked up by the Ravens. And all last year, I'm telling anybody who would listen, I'm like, saw the guy live, watched a lot of UConn games. I'm like, man, I think this guy. And by the way, Seahawks fans, stick around. I'm going to turn this back to Milroe. But I'm like, look, I think this guy's feet are really good. And I think his decision-making seemed to be, to me, NFL quality. And I'm watching the guy, and I'm like, this guy seems like a Chad Pennington type player with even a better arm, because that wasn't Chad's strong suit. And to me, once you start talking about like Chad plus, you're entering Brock Purdy territory. And that's a good quarterback. Now, obviously, he's played 2 preseason games, right. But I just want to understand from your perspective, watching the Ravens as a Ravens fan, knowing ball like you do, what are you seeing from a young quarterback? Doesn't even matter that it's a guy from UConn, but seeing from a young quarterback that you think he's doing well, that maybe we should be watching Milroe in game 3.
No, I think it's all related. I think your connection of those two players, those two the production that they have or have not had in the preseason. I think that is all related, and it comes down to the decision after the week 3 preseason game, which is which quarterback or which players do we leave on the roster and which do we leave unprotected.
Mhm.
It's a huge discussion by Baltimore Ravens fans right now. Tyler Huntley, very reliable backup quarterback. We made the mistake of letting him go, I think, after the 24 season. And he ended up back in Baltimore after being in Miami and then Cleveland. And we brought him back, and he won 2 football games for us last year, one against the Bears at home and one against the Packers on the road. So, invaluable to have a guy that, you're comparing or talking about Drew Lock in that type of role. Fagnano, Milroe. Okay, so Fagnano's super calm. Nothing bothers the guy. That was Joe Flacco in Baltimore for the amount of time that he was there. And it annoyed some people. Flacco was so calm. It was almost like the moment not only did it not bother him, but to hear him talk about it and watch him, it looked like it didn't matter to him. He was that calm guy. And so now Ravens fans are calling this guy Joe Fagnano.
It's pretty good.
They're conflating the two names. I probably screwed it up, but he was older prospect, 25. I actually remember people talking about him in high school. He's from Williamsport, Pennsylvania. My wife's from about 40 minutes from there. And a couple of coaches that I know in the area, I remember them talking about him. He went to Maine, ends up at UConn. 648 pass attempts, 6 interceptions.
Right.
The same number of pass attempts, he had 48 touchdowns, including 28-1 ratio as a senior. Of course, UConn is not Alabama, where Jalen Milroe went, but the decision-making. And it's so crazy that you mentioned his feet and his lower half. I don't know if you watched my video that I put out on Fagnano a couple of nights ago. I compared him to J.J. McCarthy. And the comparison I made was, baseball guys aren't going to like this, or people who say they're baseball fans. J.J. McCarthy reminds me of so many Major League Baseball pitchers now where there is no leg drive. There's no utilization of their lower body at all. And everything is from here up as far as generating power. And that's one of the reasons, not the only one, but it's one of the reasons why you get so many of these guys. Yeah, they're throwing the hell out of the baseball, but 4 years later, they've had 1 Tommy John. 6 years later, they've had 2, and they're done. And there's no lower body utilization at all. That's J.J. McCarthy. J.J. McCarthy is throwing a 98-mile-an-hour fastball on every single throw because everything is from the waist up or even the chest up. Fagnano is different, incredibly balanced. His feet and his eyes and his, where he's looking, everything moves at the same time. It's like textbook to me, and big fan of him. So the Ravens have a third quarterback. Ravens fan base thinks, hey, we would be okay if he had to get in a game and try to win the game or maybe not lose it, right? How do you feel about Jalen Milroe? Obviously not the
Right.
same.
No, it's not.
Right?
It's not there. That trust for a QB3 is not there yet, where you would feel comfortable. Like with Drew, again, you feel quite comfortable. You know what you're going to get, and he's going to keep you in games. He's going to win some games. He might blow a game or two, but this is a good enough team that can sustain that and absorb that. Milroe, we're not seeing it yet. Now, he wasn't in the last game before people bring out the burning a witch at the stake here. He also was not helped in many scenarios. There was a couple of just obvious drops or some 50-50s that could have been caught that didn't come down with. However, didn't excuse some of the really. It's less about decision making. It's some of that, but it's ball placement. The ball placement is like, it's like, hey man, if I know you're staring down a linebacker, but if you led on the first interception, if that's where it needs to be, it's probably not being intercepted. It's not an easy interception. It's probably not being intercepted. It might be batted down. Second one is just completely a miss. He misses Henderson and he falls down, but that's in my opinion, not his fault because he's going one direction and trying to reach back the other way. Just a complete miss, and he sailed it a bit.
Ball's thrown on the wrong side in both of those situations, in my opinion.
Exactly. That's you said it concisely. The ball placement was the wrong side. So, where you see really good feet from Fagnano at all, pretty much all times, I think Seahawks fans that are watching Milroe, we had a gentleman named Mookie Alexander who runs field goals, the SB Nation print.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, Mookie's awesome. He was on with us, and his observation really hit me. He goes, he's like, Milroe's really fast running forward. And meaning he's like, he's not crisp sometimes to get to his setup, to get to his back to dropbacks are not always crisp. Sometimes it looks great. Sometimes he's super crisp. And frankly, when he is, that ball's usually on the money, coach. And then sometimes it looks a little sluggish, whether it is or not. It appears to be a little sluggish on film or live. And then the whole operation's a tad off and he gets in trouble with that. So, I think the juxtaposition versus some being super crisp that you're seeing with Fagnano and us seeing a little bit of like, man, why can't you always just drop back the way with super intent? And the results may vary. And for us right now, they are. So to answer the question, no, I don't think there's a Seahawks fan out there that would be like, yes, I'm comfy with Milroe. Now the division and the conversation is what's crept into the ether is, do you keep him on the 53? And there's this conversation about, well, the value of a 53rd dude. I'm personally of the opinion that you have a deep enough roster. The way the practice squad is treated nowadays with veterans, you have more flexibility than you used to have. And the upside for Milroe is still so high that yes, you keep him and you let him continue to learn in a really good low pressure system. I wonder if you have a take on what you would do if you were John Schneider.
No, I mean, that's an interesting, it's going to be extremely interesting for every NFL franchise, but in particular, the ones like, the Seahawks, the Rams, the real Buffalo, hopefully the Ravens, the
right.
real Super Bowl contenders, the teams that are shooting for one realistically, that really actually think they can do it. Everybody says they are, but so
it's August. They all say that. So.
Right. So as far as Milroe goes, I feel like the first interception is a play that's kind of handed to him by the offensive coordinator. I talked about it a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Boundary side bunch. Like it just doesn't stay that way. It just doesn't. As a defensive person, my mindset is defensive, seeing the game from a defensive side. I see an offense line up, and there's a bunch into the boundary. I'm like, all right, we're going to get motion. So it's 3-by-1 now. I know it's going to end up 2-by-2. And it didn't. It's a running back to the field and the receiver kind of curling in the middle. A little bit of an unusual concept for me. I feel like you just throw the ball to the running back in the flats and let him run onto it. And
let me stop because you mentioned it earlier, but like I think your point there is that from a coach's perspective, what you're saying is they're giving him a kind of a free square, like, hey, go to the running back because we're not balancing this out. And it's good. It should be open in the flat because of the way this is set up. So a bit of a free square that you think he either missed or maybe ignored if it's worse.
I could be wrong. And like
but that's what you're seeing though. Did I capture that? Okay. Cool.
Yes. That's the receiver route even is like taking you to the middle of the field. So if the inside linebacker goes with the back to the field, that's not a field side concept. That with one receiver and the running back, that's a boundary side concept. And so it's not snag flat. It's like curl flat, but the receiver's really running in the middle of the field. So I feel like he could throw that football. And then the actual throw that he attempts later on to 87, I mean, get the ball to more towards the middle away from that linebacker and you've got to catch, right?
Yep.
And you move on. And then conversely, the other interception that's late, I know it's, really late in the game. He makes a good decision.
Yep.
He Milroe looks to his left and the nickel DB kind of hedges on a little under route by number 1. So the nickel's going to be able to react to that. So, okay, moves on, boom, moves on. And then comes back to the other side. And I think that throws there's lane space for it. And it's just moving to his right. So what'd you say the gentleman's name was? Mookie Alexander from field goals?
Yeah, Mookie, yes, on field goals, correct. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's, hey, all of your throws are not going to be stationary with your feet under. You're going to have to get like I always say quarterbacks are like a Major League Baseball shortstop. They got to be able to throw, moving to the right, moving to the left, retreating, coming forward, underhand, sidearm, whatever. And it looks to me like maybe Milroe, his accuracy widens or he becomes less accurate the more that he's moving side to side. And so there's less control over his body positioning, perhaps his usage of the lower half. To some extent, when you're moving to your side, the lower half becomes non-existent. It doesn't matter necessarily. It's all upper half. And so that throw to me, that was disappointing because I'm like, that guy's open. I'm talking about the second interception.
Yep, for sure.
That one really bothered me. I felt like ball location, was an issue as well later on. The incompletion to Arroyo in the third quarter is not a bad throw. It's not. It's against the will linebacker. It's the right decision. Let's take it. But I feel like that ball could be another foot or a foot and a half or 2 feet further to let Arroyo catch it, and the will not make a play.
Yeah.
The one to White, 82 White,
Yep.
that's up the right sideline. That
Yep.
ball's underthrown. That ball's underthrown, in my opinion, and
Yep.
not in a good spot. That brings the DB back into play. The DB's at a deficit, in my opinion, and you brought the DB. You did him a favor instead of that ball being further towards the sideline or even a little bit more upfield. Does that make sense?
Oh, it totally does. And I thought, Adam agreed with you that it was underthrown when we looked at it live. And I was a little more critical of Cody because he kind of had a not a great game, but he's been a good Seahawk. Now it not being a great ball, Cody's still a big wide receiver. So go, you get a 50-50 chance, go up there and make a play. That's what you're paid for. But
aggressively go after it. Right.
But yeah. But to your point, but he missed it. And that happens also, right? I mean, the best drop ball sometimes, but to your point, there was enough, unfortunately, consistency, and this is a negative, of Milroe just missing the mark over and over again with ball placement, and that's and
wider,
and we'll get
net dispersal.
Yeah, right. I think when a hurricane is coming ashore, they got the cone of indifference, right? So you get that big old cone. It's a little wide for what you want from an NFL quarterback. Now, the nice part is, I think the Seahawks are going to be patient again and realize the guy has lots of talent. And if these are things, if the execution is, if the decision making is mainly good, like you said, the first interception, you said it very clearly. You don't think that was a good decision. And I now hearing your point of view and understanding what you see from your vantage point and experience, that's really cool to understand. And I agree with you. I'll say, hey man, that makes sense to me. But most often it's like, okay, the decision making was actually pretty good. He just misexecuted. And I realize you don't always make up that gap, but sometimes you do. Sometimes in the NFL, you can sincerely improve there. And so, I'll take away from this conversation that the concept for, I think, most Seahawks fans are like, hey, we don't need to rush this. We just came off a stint with Geno Smith and now Sam Darnold. So maybe of all the organizations in the league who want to be patient with the quarterback, maybe we should have a little bit more grace. And so that's where I fall right now. But
that makes sense.
But the echo chamber or the chorus is getting louder about, hey, he's not going to be the guy. So it's the nice part is there's another game coming up actually on Friday with Kansas City. So yes, it'll be a vanilla Spags, but Spags vanilla is still a banana split compared to some coaches out there. So that'll be really cool to see what Milroe can do. I think he's going to get the majority of those snaps. So that'll be something to watch as well. So, well, Coach, it's been absolutely fantastic having you on here. This has been a great primer. You mentioned the Arroyo video that you just got done. So I'm assuming that'll be up on your channel at ASAP. This is probably going to go out. We're recording this on Thursday. No, that's not correct at all. It's Tuesday. Coach, I wish it was Thursday. Recording this on Tuesday. This is probably going to go out tomorrow on Wednesday. So I bet the Arroyo video will be hitting your channel there soon. What else you got coming?
While we were recording this.
Oh, there. Perfect. So anybody watching this now that hasn't gone over there yet, you see it on screen. For those that are not on screen, just go search all 22 NFL film out on YouTube. You'll see his channel nearly getting to 50,000 subs. So you got the Arroyo video already up. On any other Seahawks stuff that you got fixing to do heading into game 3 of the preseason?
Yeah, I was probably going to have something up about Milroe and Locke. I had only cut about 8 or 10 plays talking about some of the issues we discussed. I will mention this, that I think the carryover from Darnold being in San Francisco one season, 23, I think.
Yeah.
Then Minnesota 24, then Seattle last year. And then Darnold and Milroe being in the same quarterback room last year. There is the opportunity for Milroe to have, by proxy,
absolutely
a connection to Fleury in terms of the terminology relationship. I think the ratio might not be 1-to-1, Kubiak to Fleury. It might be 1.2 to 1 or 1.08 to 1, something like that. And so I think that's important, is that there's a lot of carryover. In my opinion, the 49er system in some ways is a little bit easier on quarterbacks with certain things. I'll send you the link. You can put it up if you want. Ben Kurt, former NFL quarterback who breaks down the game really quickly. He's got instant recognition of things, and he played for LaFleur and he played for Shanahan as he was in those quarterback rooms, and he knows the systems. A amazing point he made a couple of years ago. I will send you the link and you could share it.
Please.
About the difference between the 49er structure and the Fleury, or maybe even McVay system. And in that way, it could theoretically should help out a guy like Milroe to have to do a little bit less pre-snap, if you will. So I think what really needs to happen is he needs to have a good game. He needs to play well, to change the opinion of Seahawks fans, who deservedly so. They want to see progress. They want to see momentum and moving forward. And he does need to demonstrate that, in particular preseason game against week 3, given who he's going to be facing and who he's not.
Yeah. Well, I love all that. We will definitely put that link in the description. So watch for that in this video. Coach, we would love to find a week mid-season at some point to bring you back in to kind of do it again and say, okay, what are we seeing now? And we also know, like, hey, thank you for coming on talking the offensive side of the ball. Mostly, we know that you really love the defensive side of the ball. So that'll be interesting to check in too, because can a Super Bowl champion be on a path to repeat? And what does Mike Macdonald got to do to stay a step ahead of an NFL that catches up really, really quickly? So that'd be a really cool. Yeah, that'd be great to have you back, Coach. Have an amazing start to your year. Good luck to your Ravens. I hope, look, if we could sign for it now, Ravens, Seahawks down at SoFi, I'll buy you a beer. How's that sound?
That'd be great, man. Appreciate it. Thank you guys for your time, and thanks for having me once again.
Of course. All right. Thank you, Coach. And to everybody else, go Hawks.